Hi, welcome everyone. Jay's going to be handing out some handouts that basically that's the part that I'm going to go over, and then Ed will give you the actual demonstrations. People change locks for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's just for the way it looks. Sometimes it's because something is old or worn or broken. You know, maybe you had a break-in in the house, something like that. Sometimes people want to rekey things because they just moved into a place and they don't want the old tenant to be able to get in. So there's all kinds of reasons that people are rekeying things. When you are coming in to get new locks or to get locks rekeyed, there's a lot of information that we would like you to have when you come in, and that's what this handout is about. Now, if you do misplace this handout, don't worry, we have plenty, we can print more, so don't worry about that. This is a demonstration tool that we use to figure out the handing of your door. The handing of your door is important for us when we are helping you determine what kind of locks to use. We always ask you to stand outside the door. So when you're standing outside your door, does the door swing in or does it pull out? When you're facing the door from the outside, whichever side the hinge is on, so if the hinge is on the right, it's a right-hand door. If the door pushes in, it's a standard right-hand door. If the door pulls out, it's right-hand reverse. And the same is true on the left side. If the door pushes in to the left, it's a left-hand door. If the door pulls out, it's a left-hand reverse. Some of that's important for when you're taking measurements of your door. When doors are installed, a lot of times they will bevel one edge of the door so that the door shuts more easily. So on a door that's swinging in, the cut will be on the inside edge. So when I'm measuring my back set, I'll measure the outside. If the door pulls out, again, the inside edge is what's going to be beveled, so I'm going to measure on the outside.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Another reason for that is because you want to keep your keys with the cuts up. And in order to do that, you need to know the way this door swings, otherwise the cuts will come down when you're installing the lock.
Right, so that's part of
why. It makes it easier for the dirt to get in, and you want as little dirt as you can get in there. I mean, but with it up, it lifts the pins that are in the lock, and it works, it keeps it cleaner.
Right.
That's another reason why we ask about it.
Yeah, handing is important. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is how to measure your door. One of the measurements that we want is door thickness. So you're going to take your tape measure and measure from here. This one is 1 3/4. That's kind of a standard size. And if you flip over your handout, it tells you the sort of standard sizes for doors. Some doors are thick like this. And so when you measure them, they're actually 2 1/4. And we want to know that information because there's a lot of locks that will not fit on a 2 1/4 inch door. So that's why it's really important to us that you've measured how thick your door is. The next measurement that we do is what's called the back set. And that's the distance from the edge of the door to the center of the hole, right where the key would be, which is also the top of the curve of the knob. So you'd take your tape measure, and again, remember that whole idea of the swinging. So if the door closes this way, I'm going to measure this side. If the door closes this way, I'm going to measure this side, because I want to measure the longest edge. And so then I take it from the edge of the door to the top of the circle. And in the handout here, it gives you some common back sets. 2 3/8 and 2 3/4 are the most common. We do have some lock sets that are 5 inches back, and we have a number of options that will cover that. Once in a while there's a few other things, but that's what most of them are. For mortise locks, they're like this. The standard back sets are 2 1/2 or 2 3/4. And then for storefront doors, like the doors that we have at the front of the store here, if you happen to have a door like that, the standard sizes are 7/8, 31/32, inch and an eighth, or inch and a half. Now, sometimes you're replacing knobs in a door that's been damaged. And so a measurement that we want to know is the center to center between the two. For example, the edge of your door was damaged and you want to put a wraparound on. I need to know what the distance is between those two holes so that we can get the right wraparound for you. I need to know the width of the door so that mine is the proper thickness for your door. We have wraparounds for 2 1/4, we have it for 1 3/4, we have it for 1 3/8. Imagine if your jamb was damaged because someone jimmied it. Well, we have a really nice security strike that can reinforce that jamb, but again, we need to know the distances center to center so that we can get you the right strike. Okay. Another thing that we want to know is how many people use this lock. You know, is it high usage or low usage? You know, if you're in a building with 30 apartments and you have a building knob set, we want to make sure you have one that's heavy duty enough to cover that kind of traffic. If you have a basement door in your home that you use maybe 3 times a year, you don't have to necessarily spend the money that the other person would have spent. Also, is it a high traffic or a low traffic door? Because that also does relate to how much sturdiness you need in your lock. Is it a fire rated door? If a door is fire rated, things get a little more complicated, and so it'd be important to know that about your door. Most doors, not always, on the inside edge that you would open will have some kind of a sticker if it's a fire rated door. The next thing we'd want to know is what function do you need? You know, are you looking for a storeroom function? A storeroom function would mean that on the inside there's no button. On the outside there's a key. So only someone with a key can enter. Oh, this is a passage. Well, over there.
Here's a storeroom.
Okay.
No buttons, always free to get out, and will always lock again when you take the key out.
Now, in a circumstance where you have something that you want to be secure all the time, maybe it's a medical supply cabinet, or maybe it's a front door to an apartment building, you know, something where you only want authorized people with keys to get in, a storeroom function makes a lot of sense, because if someone has a button and can undo it, and you didn't know, well, then your secured items are no longer secure. Entry function is common for a house, you know, an apartment, sometimes an office, because you can turn the button and then it'll be open for the day, or when you're running in and out gardening, something like that. A privacy would be for a bathroom, and that's where you can use a mechanical means to get in, like a screwdriver or a coin or something like that. So someone can lock it when they're inside, but if need be, you know, if your toddler locks himself in the bathroom, you can get in with a little screwdriver. The next function would be passage. That means that you can get in and get out. You know, a lot of people for closets use passage or hallways. Institutional. Institutional means that there's a key on the outside to get in, but there's also a key on the inside to get out. You know, like imagine in an asylum where there may be inmates that it would be unsafe for them to get outside. You have a key to get out. Anytime we sell something where there's a key to get out, we tell you, be careful. Think about life safety. If you have to have a key to get out, something dangerous occurs and the person who is inside doesn't have a key, will they be able to get out safely? You know, maybe you have a window, maybe you have another door nearby. You always have to think about a key to get out. If it's a rental unit in Chicago, pretty much don't do it. Classroom function. A classroom function is like a teacher in school. They'll have no button on the inside because they don't want the students to change whether or not the doorknob is locked. But on the outside, depending on how they turn their key, the door will be open or the door will be locked.
So the teacher would come, open the door for the day, and then if he had stragglers, he could still lock and leave, and they would be able to leave because you can get out, but they wouldn't be able to get back into the classroom.
And then there's a single-sided deadbolt, which means that there's a key to get in from the outside and a thumb turn on the inside. and then a double-sided deadbolt where it's a key to get in and a key to get out. Again, we always caution when you're using a key to get out. A lot of people say things like, well, there's a window right next to the lock, you know, someone can get in. There are a lot of other solutions that you can do besides a key to get out, you know, in terms of how you deal with that situation. Grades of locks. There's a grade 1. That's a heavy-duty commercial. Most manufacturers offer a grade 1. That's institutional use or large apartment buildings. Grade 2, it's light-duty commercial or high residential. That's kind of a medium grade lock where it can handle decent traffic, but it's not as expensive as the grade 1. Grade 3 is residential and economical. Grade 3 is pretty much what most people use in their homes, you know, unless they want to upgrade to maybe a light-duty commercial. And within each of those categories, there's a really wide range. You know, grade 3 can be something that we would talk about as being like a disposable lock. You know, some people choose to use these economical locks in apartments because in Chicago you have to change the, you know, the keys every time you have a new tenant. So they get these very inexpensive locks so that the next time they just buy a new set of very inexpensive locks. You know, so it depends, and still grade 3 does have some that are fairly sturdy, so it's within a range. When you are doing some rekeying, it's really important that whatever locks you bring in, you bring the key that currently opens them, and if you want it to rekey to a specific key, bring that key as well, because we need physical keys to do that work. Sometimes you don't have a key, maybe, you know, you took over a foreclosure or something like that. Those things do happen. Sometimes we can break into those locks and rekey them. It does have an additional fee when it's involved with that kind of process. Sometimes we can't. It's just a matter of us seeing the locks and seeing what we can do. Ed is actually going to show us how we do taking the locks out.
How we remove these locks. We're going to start with knob sets. Many different manufacturers of knob sets make them in different ways. And the 3 basic ways that these locks are set up are exposed screw, non-exposed screw, or compression. And they also come in different grades, just like Kimberly said. And I'm going to show you how to take these things off. First, I'm going to show you the exposed screw. As you can all see, these have exposed screws on this lock. Okay?
So I'll just, for those who can't see.
And
right.
This also has exposed screws.
Exposed screws.
Okay? Not every manufacturer falls into these 3 categories, but these are the 3 categories that are the most out there. Okay? The tools that you would need are probably a screwdriver with a Phillips tip, a flat tip screwdriver, something with a point on it like a ice pick or an awl. There are times when we've even opened some locks with a key ring where you just bend it until you can get it to a point where you can poke. And I'll show you that in a minute.
Paper clips.
We're going to do this one first. It's a exposed screw. And basically, what you need to do is just take the screws out of the back. The back will come off. The front will pull out most of the time by no problem at all of the hole. And then you take your latch out by just taking these 2 screws out. Now, Kwikset makes 2 different types. The newer ones are a little different than this, which I'm going to show you next. But basically, this is how you take an exposed screw lock apart.